Dr. Lila Cross stood in front of the massive doors of the Galactic Archives, her heart racing. She had always dreamed of this moment, of uncovering secrets that could change the course of history. The Galactic Archives held the most ancient, powerful, and mysterious documents in the galaxy. But it wasn't the usual research she had in mind today. Dr. Cross was after something much deeper, something hidden away in the deepest vaults of the archives. She had spent years studying the history of the Great Galactic War, a conflict that spanned across star systems and shook the foundations of many civilizations. Humans had always been an outlier in galactic history, a species of explorers and survivors who had earned both admiration and fear from other species. But there was one thing that puzzled Dr. Cross. Why were humans banned from participating in the war after their remarkable achievements in the early years? Why had a species so full of potential been cast aside, their name erased from the history books of galactic warfare? The truth, she believed, was out there. Dr. Cross had spent years digging through ancient texts and forgotten scrolls. She had found small clues, hidden whispers about a forbidden species and an unseen threat that had shaken the galactic powers to their core. Yet, no one ever spoke about it directly. It was as though the entire galaxy was trying to forget. With a deep breath, she pressed the button next to the doors, and they slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, the room was quiet, its vast walls lined with data terminals and ancient scrolls. The air smelled of dust and age, but Dr. Cross was undeterred. She knew this was where she would find the answers. As she walked deeper into the archives, her mind raced. The Galactic Senate had always been clear about one thing. Humans were not to be involved in any future galactic conflicts. It was a decision made long ago, but no one knew why. There were rumors of a great human victory that had upset the balance of power, but the details were vague, lost in time. Some said that humanity's ability to fight beyond their numbers had scared the other species, while others believed the humans had done something far worse. Dr. Cross had a theory. She believed the truth lay within the Galactic Senate's earliest records. Hidden deep within those ancient files was something that could explain why humans were banned from the war, and possibly even reveal the terrifying power they possessed. Her hands hovered over the control panel of one of the oldest terminals, which had been shut off for decades. It had once been the source of crucial galactic data, but now it was just another relic of the past. As the screen flickered to life, Dr. Cross felt a surge of excitement. This was it. This terminal contained a classified report from the first days of the Galactic War, one that had been locked away by the Senate itself. She navigated through the codes and encryption, pulling up the report. It was long and filled with complex terminology, but Dr. Cross had been trained to decode even the most advanced texts. She carefully examined the first few paragraphs. It was a battle report, detailing a series of human victories in a war no one dared talk about. But it wasn't just the victories that caught her attention. It was the tone of the document. There was something strange about it. The report wasn't celebrating humanity's bravery or strength. It was terrified of it. The human victories had been sudden, unexpected, and unlike anything the galaxy had ever seen. The humans had fought with a level of ingenuity that amazed even the most advanced species. They had turned the tide of the war, using strategies no one had predicted. But what shocked Dr. Cross even more was the mention of a new kind of weapon, a weapon that had altered the course of the war in favor of humanity. The details were vague, but it was clear that the weapon was not a physical object. It was something far more dangerous. As she continued reading, Dr. Cross found a passage that chilled her to the bone. It was a warning from the Galactic Council, a council made up of the most powerful species in the galaxy. They had unanimously agreed to ban humans from future galactic conflicts, fearing that their growing strength and ability to think outside the box would destabilize the fragile balance of power. But why had the other species been so afraid of humanity? Dr. Cross leaned back in her chair, thinking hard. There was something missing, something crucial that she had yet to discover. She wasn't sure what it was, but she knew that the key to understanding humanity's banishment from galactic warfare lay just out of reach. Her journey was only beginning. The path to uncover the truth was filled with secrets, and Dr. Cross was determined to uncover them all. The question swirled in her mind. What exactly had humanity done? Why had the galaxy turned against them? And most importantly, what had they learned about humanity's potential that made them so afraid? For the first time, Dr. Cross felt the weight of the responsibility that lay on her shoulders. The truth was out there, hidden in the deepest corners of the galaxy, and it was up to her to find it before the galaxy's darkest secrets were buried forever. Dr. Lila Cross spent the next several days immersed in the archives, poring over countless files and reports. The more she read, the deeper the mystery grew. The details about humanity's early victories in the Great Galactic War were scattered, hidden behind layers of outdated encryption and carefully crafted lies. But one thing was clear: humans had made a profound impact on the war, so much so that their involvement had become something of a galactic enigma. She had always known that humans were resilient, that they had an uncanny ability to adapt and survive. But the extent of their role in the conflict was far greater than she had ever imagined. The more she uncovered, the more she realized that the banishment of humanity was not just a simple matter of fear or politics. There was something else at play, something far darker and more complex. One evening, as she sifted through a particularly old document, Dr. Cross came across a name: Commander Jacob Pierce. The report described him as the leader of a small human force that had become the talk of the war. Despite being outnumbered and outgunned by far more powerful alien forces, Commander Pierce and his crew had managed to achieve a series of stunning victories. They had been labeled as ghosts of the battlefield by their enemies: quick, elusive, and nearly impossible to track. The report claimed that they used tactics never seen before in galactic warfare, catching their enemies off guard at every turn. Curiosity piqued, Dr. Cross dug deeper into Commander Pierce's history. She found more reports detailing his daring missions and the strategy behind his surprising successes. He was an expert in guerrilla warfare, using surprise, deception, and superior tactics to strike fear into the hearts of his opponents. But there was something more. Commander Pierce's forces were not just using advanced weaponry or superior knowledge of the terrain. They had an unpredictable quality about them, a level of creativity and quick thinking that seemed to defy the logic of war itself. Dr. Cross was fascinated. It wasn't just their bravery or their technology that had made humans a problem in the galactic war. It was their ingenuity. Humans could think their way out of almost any situation, even when the odds were stacked against them. The galactic leaders, who had always relied on their advanced technologies and overwhelming firepower, were completely unprepared for this level of unpredictability. Humanity's ability to fight beyond its means had shocked the most seasoned soldiers in the galaxy. But what had truly captured the attention of the galactic leaders was a single event, an operation led by Commander Pierce that had turned the tide of the war in humanity's favor. The mission was known as Operation Eclipse, and it had been carried out under the most impossible of circumstances. Pierce's team had infiltrated an enemy stronghold deep within a heavily guarded asteroid field. Despite the fact that the enemy forces outnumbered them 20-1, the human soldiers had managed to sabotage critical infrastructure, effectively crippling the enemy's ability to wage war for months. The operation had been a game-changer. The humans had not just beaten their enemies, they had done it with such precision and effectiveness that the galactic leaders had no choice but to take notice. Commander Pierce and his forces had become the stuff of legend, and it was only a matter of time before the galactic powers began to question the implications of allowing humans to continue their involvement in the war. Dr. Cross leaned back in her chair, staring at the report. It was clear now that humanity's unexpected success on the battlefield was the main reason they had been banned from the galactic war. The fear was not just of their military tactics, but of the very idea that humans could challenge the balance of power. The galactic leaders, who had fought countless wars over thousands of years, had come to the conclusion that humanity was simply too unpredictable, too dangerous to be left unchecked. They had underestimated the human spirit, and now they feared what might happen if humanity was allowed to fight alongside, or even against, any of the galactic forces. But there was still something that didn't sit right with Dr. Cross. She had uncovered the why, but not the full how. What exactly had the humans done that had made them so feared? Was it just their ingenuity, or had they uncovered something deeper, something that the galactic powers couldn't even comprehend? Driven by these new questions, Dr. Cross continued her search. She contacted her old ally, Iran, an ex-soldier who had fought alongside humans in the early days of the war. Aaron had been part of a covert mission to observe humanity's growing strength, and he had been one of the few witnesses to the true scale of what humanity had done. He had seen firsthand the power of their innovation and the unpredictable nature of their warfare. She needed his insights more than ever. Iran arrived at the archives a few days later, his face worn and serious. He was a man who had seen too much of the galaxy's dark side, and yet there was something in his eyes that still held a spark of hope. As he joined Dr. Cross in the archives, she quickly briefed him on what she had uncovered. Aaron listened carefully, his brow furrowed as he recalled the stories of human bravery, ingenuity, and their uncanny ability to surprise their enemies. The humans didn't just win, Aaron said quietly. They changed the very nature of the war. They made it unpredictable. And that was something the galaxy couldn't handle. They adapted faster than anyone could keep up with. Dr. Cross nodded, knowing he was right. The more she learned, the clearer it became. Humanity had introduced a new kind of warfare, one that no one could control. And that, in the eyes of the galaxy, was their greatest threat. The mystery deepened. The more she uncovered, the more Dr. Cross realized that humanity's true role in the war had not been fully understood. There was still more to learn, and the answers lay somewhere deep within the galactic secrets. The truth, it seemed, was far bigger than anyone had imagined. Dr. Lila Cross and Aaron sat together in the darkened corner of the galactic archives, surrounded by ancient datapads and files. The room, once silent, now felt like it was filled with 1,000 unanswered questions. They had uncovered more pieces of the puzzle, but the picture was far from clear. Humanity's role in the Great Galactic War was much deeper and more complicated than they had ever imagined. As Aaron scanned the latest datapad in front of him, his fingers hovered over the screen, hesitating. He knew something was off, but he couldn't quite put his finger on it. Dr. Cross watched him closely, sensing the unease in his demeanor. There was more to this story, and Aaron could feel it just as much as she did. "Lila, I don't think we're looking at the full picture here," Aaron said, his voice low and thoughtful. "We've been focusing on the battles and victories, but there's something we're missing. Something bigger." Dr. Cross furrowed her brow, then nodded. "I agree. The tactical victories were remarkable, yes. But what if there's something else, something about the humans themselves that terrified the galactic leaders?" She had begun to suspect that the ingenuity and unpredictability of humanity were not the only reasons they had been banned from galactic war. There had to be more, something deeper about their nature, something that transcended simple military strategy. The reports had hinted at a weapon of some kind, something abstract, yet powerful. But the documents were vague, and no one seemed to want to talk about it. Dr. Cross leaned forward, scrolling through another ancient file. This one was written in an old language, one that had not been spoken for centuries. But she had a translator that could decode it, and with a few clicks, the file's contents began to take shape on the screen. The document was a personal report from an officer who had been stationed with Commander Jacob Pierce during Operation Eclipse. The officer described the mission in great detail, but what stood out was a section toward the end. It was a strange, unsettling note about the human soldiers' behavior. The officer mentioned how the humans seemed to be more than just soldiers, that there was something about them that made their enemies fear them, even before they entered battle. "They fought with an intensity, a passion that was unlike anything I've seen before," the officer wrote. "It was as if they were fighting not just for victory, but for something much more personal, something beyond the battlefield." Dr. Cross felt a shiver run down her spine. She had heard stories of warriors who fought for honor or for their people, but this was different. This was something more primal, more raw. It was as though humanity's drive to fight was fueled by an inner strength that no one could understand or predict. As she continued reading, she found more unsettling details. The officer described how the humans seemed to have an almost unnatural ability to rally together, even when everything seemed lost. They were able to inspire those around them with a kind of fierce determination that made them nearly unstoppable. It was as if their unity and resolve were weapons in and of themselves. Aran looked over at Dr. Cross, his face grim. It sounds like the humans' true power wasn't in their technology or strategy, but in their spirit. That's what they were afraid of. They knew that if humanity was allowed to fight with that kind of resolve, there would be no stopping them. Dr. Cross nodded, her mind racing. Exactly. The galaxy feared that humans could not be controlled, that their strength was not just physical, but something intangible, something that couldn't be measured with weapons or tactics. The documents made it clear. The fear the galaxy had wasn't about human technology, or even their military brilliance. It was the human spirit itself. The resilience, the drive to fight against all odds, to never give up, even when faced with certain defeat. The other species in the galaxy had never encountered anything like it before. They had seen species rise and fall, civilizations crumble, but the humans refused to be broken. But what was it about this strength that led to their banishment? The reports mentioned a final decision made by the Galactic Senate, a decision that was made with the unanimous agreement of every major species in the galaxy. It was clear that the galaxy's leaders had agreed on one thing. Humanity's power was too dangerous to be allowed to continue unchecked. Dr. Cross stared at the screen, her mind working quickly. What if there was more to this than just fear? What if the galaxy had decided to do something about it? Suddenly, she found a new file, a final report from the Galactic Senate. It was dated just after Operation Eclipse. The file had been sealed, classified for centuries, and its contents were buried deep within the archives. She opened it slowly, each word on the screen revealing more of the terrifying truth. The report stated that the galactic powers had unanimously agreed that humanity could no longer be allowed to fight in any future wars, not because of their tactics or their victories, but because of the potential consequences if humanity were to ever unite fully. The Senate had concluded that the very essence of humanity, its unbreakable spirit and drive to survive, could become a weapon so powerful, so uncontrollable, that it would eventually overwhelm the galaxy itself. The galaxy had feared that if humans ever united under a single banner, their sheer willpower would give them the ability to conquer anything. The power of their spirit was something that no amount of advanced technology or military might could overcome. Dr. Cross stared at the report in shock. She had known that the banishment of humans was no simple matter. But this was something else entirely. The galaxy had not just feared humanity's ability to win battles. They feared what would happen if humanity ever realized the full extent of its power. As the truth began to sink in, Dr. Cross knew that she was standing on the edge of something monumental. The galaxy had tried to bury this truth for centuries, but now she had uncovered it, and with it came a new question. If humanity's strength was so dangerous, then what was the galaxy preparing for next? She wasn't just uncovering the past anymore. She was uncovering the future, and whatever came next, Dr. Cross knew one thing for certain. Humanity's true power was only beginning to unfold. Dr. Lila Cross sat alone in the dimly lit room of the Galactic Archives, the weight of the revelations pressing heavily on her shoulders. She had uncovered truths that shook the very foundation of everything she had believed. The galaxy's leaders had not feared humanity's military tactics or even their advanced technology. No, what truly terrified them was the boundless human spirit, the unyielding will to survive, to fight, and to never give up. Her mind raced as she thought about the Galactic Senate's final report. The decision to ban humanity from future wars was not made lightly. The galaxy's leaders feared what would happen if humanity's strength was fully unleashed. Dr. Cross knew that this power was something beyond weapons or strategy. It was something intrinsic, something that humans themselves didn't even fully understand. As she sat there, staring at the data pad in front of her, she began to piece together the final bits of the puzzle. The reports mentioned a hidden weapon that humans possessed, one that was never officially acknowledged by any galactic power. It was something that had been noticed during Operation Eclipse, a force that had driven humanity's unexpected victories. But the details of this weapon were sketchy at best, and the records were deliberately vague. Could it really be possible? Dr. Cross muttered to herself, her voice echoing softly in the empty room. Could there truly be a power within humanity that was capable of changing the galaxy forever? The more she thought about it, the more the pieces seemed to fit together. The data from Operation Eclipse hinted at something unusual. Commander Jacob Pierce and his crew had displayed an uncanny ability to adapt to any situation. The humans weren't just reacting to the battlefield, they were shaping it, bending it to their will. In every battle, they had used their creativity and resourcefulness to turn the tide in their favor. It was as if they had an almost supernatural understanding of the battlefield. But what was it that made them so different? Dr. Cross felt as though she was standing at the edge of a precipice, staring into the unknown. If humanity truly had a hidden weapon, something more than just tactical brilliance, what would it mean for the galaxy? Could this weapon be used for good, or would it become the very thing that the galactic leaders feared? Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden buzzing sound. It was an encrypted message, sent to her from an unknown source. She hesitated for a moment before deciding to open it. The message was brief, but its contents were startling. The truth lies in the heart of humanity. The power you seek is not in their weapons, but in their unity. Watch carefully, for the key to the galaxy's future lies within their grasp. The message was cryptic, but it confirmed what Dr. Cross had already begun to suspect. Humanity's hidden weapon was not something that could be measured in traditional terms. It was not a weapon of destruction, but something far more potent: unity. She had heard the stories, the tales of human soldiers who, when faced with overwhelming odds, could draw strength from each other, pushing past their limits to achieve the impossible. This was the true power of humanity, their ability to come together, to fight for one another, and to never surrender, no matter the cost. It was a bond stronger than any weapon, a force that no alien species had ever fully understood. As Dr. Cross mulled over the message, she felt a sense of urgency wash over her. She needed to find more answers. She needed to understand this power, this force that the galaxy had been so desperate to control. She couldn't do it alone, though. She needed help. Without wasting another moment, Dr. Cross reached out to Iran. He had been her ally throughout this journey, and she knew he had the experience and knowledge to help her unravel the mystery. She quickly sent him a message, urging him to meet her in the archives as soon as possible. Time was running out. When Aaron arrived, he immediately sensed the shift in the atmosphere. Dr. Cross was no longer the scientist focused solely on uncovering historical facts. She was now a woman on a mission, a woman who had discovered something that could change everything. "I've uncovered something," Dr. Cross said, her voice steady but filled with excitement. "Something the galaxy has been trying to keep hidden for centuries. Humanity's true power is not in their technology or their weapons. It's in their unity, their ability to come together, to fight for each other. That's what the galaxy was afraid of." Iran looked at her, his face grim. That's why they banned humans from war. They knew that if humanity united fully, their spirit would become unstoppable. No force in the galaxy could stand against it. Dr. Cross nodded. "Exactly. But there's more. The message I received said that the truth lies in the heart of humanity. The power is in their unity, and I think that's the key to understanding what's coming next." Aaron crossed his arms, his expression thoughtful. "But how do we harness that power? How do we tap into it?" Dr. Cross shook her head. "I don't know yet, but I believe humanity is on the verge of something huge. If they can ever truly unite, if they can bring that power to the surface, the galaxy will be forever changed. They sat in silence for a moment, both contemplating the gravity of what they had uncovered. The truth was now clear. Humanity's strength was not in their ability to wage war, but in their ability to unite, to fight together as one. This was the hidden weapon that the galaxy had feared. But the question remained, what would humanity do with this power? Would they use it to heal the galaxy, to forge alliances, and create peace? Or would they turn it into something that could rival the most powerful forces in the universe? Dr. Cross didn't know the answer, but one thing was certain. The fate of the galaxy now rested in humanity's hands, and she was determined to see where that journey would lead. The silence in Dr. Cross's lab felt suffocating as she stared at the holoscreen in front of her. The pieces of the puzzle were falling into place, but the final image was still unclear. Her mind was filled with questions about humanity's strength, about what they could achieve if they ever united fully, and about the galaxy's fear of that unity. She needed answers, and time was running out. Her thoughts were interrupted by a sudden knock at the door. Aaron stood in the doorway, his expression serious, but there was a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "I found something," Aaron said, holding up a data pad. "A message from a human colony on Cylon 7. They say they're ready." Dr. Cross felt a rush of excitement. "Ready for what?" she asked, leaning forward. "They say they've been preparing for something bigger than themselves. They understand now. They've come together, just like you said. Humanity is starting to unite on a level we've never seen before." Dr. Cross's heart raced. This was it. The unity she had been searching for, the power that had always been there, was starting to take shape. But she knew that this was only the beginning. She had to see it for herself. "Show me," she said, standing up. Aaron handed her the data pad, and she quickly accessed the message. It was a video, and the faces of human leaders from across the galaxy filled the screen. "We, the people of Cylon 7, stand together," one of the leaders said. "We've come to understand that our strength doesn't come from weapons or technology or even our individual nations. It comes from our unity. We are not just one colony. We are a part of something much bigger. And we are ready to fight for a future where every human can thrive. Together." The words hit Dr. Cross like a thunderbolt. She could feel the energy in the room shift. This wasn't just a call for peace. It was a call to action. The humans were not just talking about unity. They were embracing it, ready to use it as a force to shape their future. "Aaron," Dr. Cross whispered, her voice full of wonder, "this is what we've been waiting for. This is the spark that will ignite the fire." They've found it. They've found the power we were looking for. Aaron nodded, but there was a hint of concern in his eyes. But the galaxy won't just let them unite without a fight. The powers that be will try to stop them. They can't risk humans finding that kind of strength. Dr. Cross's mind raced. Aaron was right. The leaders of the galaxy had always feared the day when humanity would truly unite. If the humans could harness this power, they would become an unstoppable force. The galaxy's current power structures would be threatened. But what if they can't stop it? Dr. Cross said, almost to herself, "What if humanity is already too far along, too strong in their unity for anyone to break them apart?" Aaron raised an eyebrow. "Are you suggesting the galaxy's leaders might be too late?" Dr. Cross smiled. "I think it's already happening, and they don't even know it." The more she thought about it, the more she realized that humanity's power lay not just in their will to survive, but in their ability to adapt, to learn, and to grow. They had done it before. Every time they had faced a challenge, they found a way to overcome it, whether through innovation, courage, or sheer determination. Now that ability to adapt was being applied to something much more profound, unity. And once humanity fully realized that power, there would be no turning back. Aaron seemed to understand her thoughts, but his concern remained. The galaxy won't just sit by. The Senate, the warlords, All of them. They'll take action. They'll try to tear humanity apart before it becomes a real threat. Dr. Cross's eyes hardened with resolve. Let them try. Humanity has faced bigger threats before. This time, they won't be alone. They will have each other, and that will make all the difference. They were interrupted by another message, this time from the human colony on Elysium. It was a recorded message, and the faces on the screen were different, but the message was the same. We stand with Xylon 7. Our resources, our people, our knowledge, they are all yours. We are stronger together. This is not just a call for unity. It is a promise. The humans will rise, and we will rise together. Dr. Cross and Aaron exchanged a look of disbelief. The human colonies were not just talking about unity. They were living it. The ripple effect was spreading across the galaxy, faster than anyone could have predicted. Dr. Cross felt a deep sense of awe. The fear that had gripped the galaxy's leaders for so long was now becoming clear. They had feared humanity's unity, not because it was violent, but because it was a force of transformation, a force that could change everything. They won't be able to stop this, Dr. Cross said, her voice filled with certainty. Not anymore. Humanity has found its true strength, and now they will change the galaxy. Together. But as she said those words, a chill ran down her spine. The galaxy's leaders would not give up so easily. They had already taken steps to maintain their control, and they would do whatever it took to keep humanity from becoming the dominant force. The battle for humanity's future was just beginning, and Dr. Cross knew that it was a battle unlike any the galaxy had ever seen. But one thing was certain: humanity was no longer just a collection of isolated colonies. They were a force to be reckoned with, and they would fight for their future together. The tension in the Galactic Senate chambers was palpable. Every corner of the room was filled with murmurs of concern, distrust, and fear. The holographic display in the center flickered, showing the growing unity of the human colonies, the messages from Xylon 7, and Elysium still fresh in the minds of everyone present. It was clear now. Humanity was changing, and the galaxy's leaders weren't sure how to handle it. Senator Ilara Voss, one of the most powerful voices in the Senate, stood up, her face stern. "This is no longer about control," she said, her voice cutting through the murmurs. "Humanity is uniting at a pace we did not expect. They're organizing, rallying, and soon they will be an unstoppable force. We cannot allow them to continue down this path." The room fell silent. Every eye was on her, waiting for her next words. "We must take action now," she continued, "before they grow any stronger. If we allow them to continue building this unity, we risk losing all the power we've worked so hard to maintain." Her words echoed in the minds of every senator present. The fear was real. The galaxy's leaders knew that humanity had the potential to overthrow their carefully crafted balance of power. And now, with the colonies starting to unite in ways they had never seen before, the time to act was slipping away. On the outskirts of the room, Aaron and Dr. Cross watched from the shadows, listening intently to the heated discussion unfolding before them. They had gained access to the Senate chambers under false pretenses, but now, as they listened to the debate, they realized how dangerous the situation had become. "They're afraid," Dr. Cross whispered, her eyes fixed on the holographic display. "Afraid of what humanity could become. They see unity as a threat to their control." Aaron nodded, his face grim. "It's more than that. They've built a system that relies on division, on competition between species. They've created a galaxy where power is held by a few, and they won't let it go easily." "But humanity's not like that," Dr. Cross said, her voice filled with conviction. "Humans believe in working together, in helping each other. This unity isn't a weapon. It's a path forward. If they can continue, they can change the galaxy for the better." Aaron looked at her, his expression softening. "But they won't be allowed to. The Senate will do whatever it takes to stop them." Dr. Cross swallowed hard, the weight of their mission pressing down on her. She had always believed that humanity's potential was limitless, but now she saw just how far the galaxy's leaders would go to keep that power from being unleashed. She had no doubt that the coming days would determine the future of the entire galaxy. Back in the Senate chambers, the debate grew more heated. The opposing factions began to argue over how best to contain humanity's rising influence. Some suggested diplomatic measures, offering incentives to the colonies to keep them divided. Others, however, were more radical, calling for a direct intervention, a forceful response to quash the unity before it could spread any further. Senator Voss, seeing the growing divide, made her move. "It's clear we cannot simply wait for this to resolve itself," she declared, her eyes scanning the room. "Humanity's unity is a direct challenge to the way we've structured this galaxy. If they are allowed to continue, they will overthrow everything we've built. We must act swiftly and decisively." Her words were met with murmurs of agreement, but there was also hesitation in the air. The Senate was divided. Some believed that a more peaceful approach could work, while others were convinced that drastic action was necessary. Dr. Cross and Aaron exchanged a look. They knew that time was running out. The longer the Senate debated, the more humanity's power would grow. If they didn't act soon, it would be too late to stop it. "We need to send a message," Voss said, her voice firm. "The humans cannot be allowed to rise. Not like this. We will use every resource at our disposal to keep them in check." Her words were met with a final round of applause, and the decision was made. The Senate would take action to prevent humanity from uniting fully, even if it meant resorting to force. As Dr. Cross and Aaron prepared to leave the chamber, a sense of urgency flooded over them. They couldn't let the Senate's decision go unchecked. Humanity's unity was their last hope, and if the Senate's plans were allowed to succeed, everything they had worked for would be in jeopardy. "We have to warn them," Dr. Cross said, her voice low and determined. "We can't let them destroy what humanity has worked so hard to build." Aaron nodded. "We'll need help. We can't do this alone." As they made their way out of the chamber, the realization hit them. This was the tipping point. The galaxy's leaders had made their decision. They would either crush humanity's unity and prevent them from realizing their true power, or they would face a rebellion unlike anything they had ever seen before. The path ahead was unclear, but one thing was certain. Dr. Cross and Aaron couldn't stand by and let the galaxy's leaders win. The war for humanity's future had begun, and the battle would be fought not with weapons, but with the very spirit that made humans who they were, unity. The question remained, would it be enough to defeat the galaxy's fear and change the course of history forever? Only time would tell. The tension in the galaxy was at its peak. Humanity, once divided and scattered across distant colonies, was now united in a way that had never been seen before. The Senate, fearful of the growing human unity, had chosen to act, deliberately, forcefully, and with a plan to stop them. But what they hadn't counted on was the sheer strength of the human will, nor the unexpected alliances that would rise to support them. Dr. Cross and Aaron had done everything they could to warn the humans. They had spread the word, contacted leaders, and gathered every ounce of support they could muster. But now, they found themselves on the front lines of a battle that would determine the future of the galaxy. As the fleet of ships from multiple human colonies gathered outside the Senate's borders, Dr. Cross stood at the control center, her fingers hovering over the communication console. The human leaders were ready. They were not prepared to back down. "They think they can stop us," Dr. Cross said, her voice steady but full of determination. "But they underestimate what happens when humans unite. We don't fight for power. We fight for survival. We fight for each other." Aaron stood beside her, his eyes scanning the data feeds that were streaming across the screen. The human fleet was larger than anyone had anticipated, a mix of military ships and civilian crafts that had come together for one purpose: to protect their newfound unity. "The galaxy will never be the same again," Aaron said quietly. "They can try to tear us apart, but they don't understand the strength of human spirit. It's like a fire. They can try to put it out, But once it's burning, it spreads. Dr. Cross nodded. The unity humanity had achieved wasn't just about organizing. It was about something deeper: trust, compassion, and a belief that together they could accomplish anything. This wasn't a rebellion born out of anger or violence. It was a movement grounded in hope and unity. As the ships moved closer to the Senate's borders, the first shots were fired. But they weren't from the humans. The galaxy's leaders, realizing the scale of the threat, had begun to mobilize their forces in an attempt to crush the humans' unity. Their fear was evident. The human fleet didn't engage in retaliation right away. They were focused on sending a message, one of peace and solidarity. Dr. Cross's voice echoed across the fleet's communication channels. "We are not here to fight. We are here to be heard. We have come together, not as enemies, but as one people. We will not back down." The silence that followed was almost deafening, but slowly the response from the Senate came. A single voice, the leader of the galactic forces, came through on the comms. "You dare to challenge the power of the galaxy?" The voice boomed. "You are nothing but a collection of insignificant colonies. You have no right to challenge the order we've built." But the humans stood firm. Their ships moved forward in unison, a perfect symbol of the unity they had worked so hard to achieve. The fleets were not composed of soldiers alone. There were farmers, doctors, engineers, and children, all standing side by side. Humanity was no longer just a collection of distant outposts. It was a single, united force. Dr. Cross glanced at Aran. "We can't back down now. The galaxy has to see what we're capable of. This is the only way to show them we will not be intimidated." Aran gave her a reassuring look. "We've already won, Cross. The fact that we're here together is the victory. The rest will follow." The human fleet continued its steady advance, but this time, something changed. The ships from the Senate forces began to hesitate. The vast armada that had once stood ready to crush humanity's dream faltered. For the first time, the galaxy's leaders saw the power of a united human front. They saw not a threat, but a force of hope that was impossible to ignore. And then, it happened. One by one, the Senate's ships began to turn away. First, a few, then more. Eventually, the entire fleet began to retreat, unable to face the overwhelming strength of humanity's unity. The message was clear: the galaxy would not be divided any longer. Dr. Cross and Aran stood in awe, watching as the human fleet moved past the Senate's borders, unchallenged. The Senate had been forced to recognize the power of a united human race, and now, for the first time, the galaxy's leaders saw that humanity was no longer something to be controlled or feared. They were a force to be respected. The Senate had been given a choice: adapt or face extinction, and as the human fleet sailed past them, Dr. Cross knew that this was just the beginning. The galaxy had changed forever. Humanity had proven that when they stood together, there was nothing they couldn't accomplish. As the fleet sailed into the future, the message was loud and clear. Unity was the key to survival, and no one, no matter how powerful, could stand against it. Dr. Cross smiled as she watched the stars pass by. She knew that the path ahead would not always be easy, but humanity had shown that when they stood together, they could overcome anything. The dawn of a new era had begun, and there was no turning back. The galaxy had witnessed the strength of humanity's unity, and it would never forget it.